music channel, Sunday at Mike's. Thank you so much for joining in this evening. It's good to be here to talk to you about a couple of different subjects tonight. But first of all, of course, I hope that everybody out there, whether you're listening to this live or listening on a rerun, I hope that you're doing well where you're at. Yeah, I had a very interesting week this week. Just until more people get joined in. Um I took my Laney in to the shop that did the repair on my Echoplex and my EP3. And I'm going to have the voltage cable on it changed because the voltage cable on that one is set for actually UK. I'm gonna have it switched over here for EU, and just a little few other things I'm gonna do to it, rewiring. And I told Fern, I was talking to Fern because he was the guy who said go to this guy in the first place. So I was talking to Fern. He was like, "Yeah, I said I went to go see your man, and he really got my Echoplex really swinging." And he said, "Yeah, I have a Fender Deluxe that I bought in Florida back in 2002, brand new, sitting over in the shop for the longest time. I haven't had the chance to really get it from him." And Fern has done me so many favors over the time that I really said to myself, "Well, let me do him a favor and bring it back." I know it's a 1 by 12. My amp is a 1 by 12, so it really couldn't be that heavy, I thought. So so I actually took a car to take my amp over, and I said I'll take the tram back because the tram actually is not too far from the guy's workshop, and then I can get off not too far from my place from there. So it's not that long of a walk, even if it's super heavy. So, but anyway, I get down to the workshop and I drop off my Laney, and he says, "Yeah, that's Fern. He called me and told me you're gonna come get it, and that's it over there." And yeah, sure enough, it's a 1 by 12, but Fender Deluxes are tanks, man. That was my first time truly handling one. This is a 2002 model, so it's about 20 years old. So it's a legit model from a good era, and it was something to carry. So I had to, but fortunately, cool thing about it is it had the amp cover on it. It had an amp cover, something that my Laney doesn't even have. That after this I said, boy, I better order one of those. And I picked it up, and I immediately said to myself, "Okay, this thing has got some heft to it. Wow." I my Laney, well, I lightened it by removing the rear grill, but that's not much weight. Yeah, that Laney's a lot lighter for 1 by 12. I wonder if that has also something to do with the sound differences between these two. But in any case, somehow made it to the tram, which is about a 200-yard walk, so 300-yard walk. Not that far, not that bad. With this Fender Deluxe, I'm carrying it, like this in both arms. Get it on the tram and get it home here. And I called up Fern. I said, "Hey, Fern, I've got your amp here, but honestly, that walk, from the tram to my place, and then I'm at the top, so I had to go up a series of steps lugging this thing." And I was wore out. I just couldn't see myself lugging this around again to his shop is not too far from me, but so I said, "Hey, I got your amp here. Do you mind if I bring it by tomorrow?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, don't worry about it. Thanks. I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, you can try it out to your heart's content." Like, "Oh, well, that's really nice of you. I appreciate it. It's very kind of him." So I got to spend, about 24 hours or so, a little bit longer, with a nice Fender Deluxe. You know, it is the amp that my pedal here, my F1, is based on. Without any question, the Fender sound is something that I like, that I really could say works for me. To have a nice quality Fender Deluxe like that was awesome. To be able to spend some time, especially with that reverb tank that's in the reverb sound, and really getting to understand what that Fender reverb sound is. That's the one weak link in the chain in my pedal board here, is I haven't quite yet found the reverb that I like. As a matter of fact, that kind of leads into tonight's main subject, but I don't want to get into that now. But yeah, really digging into that Fender Deluxe Fern loaned to me, and I was also able to film the show that'll come out tomorrow for the week, where I took this pedal that I took 4 years for me to receive from Electric Magic in Pennsylvania. I got to do the actual demo of it using a Fender Deluxe, which, as you know, that's a great clean sound. The clean sound out of Fern's amp is right up there. Just, it's a 15-watt amp. That's where kind of I was like, I told Fern, he said, well, what do you think? I said, hey, Ben, I'm waiting for the reverb tank to be repaired in my 68 Deluxe Reverb amp. I'm yet to play it, but I can't wait. Yeah, man. That reverb sound in that Deluxe is something I can imagine in 68, man, But I said to him, well, I love the sound of that amp. I said, it's great. Really, the cleanest clean you can imagine. I said, what speaker do you have in there? He says, I don't know. It's a stock speaker. So I figure it's kind of maybe a C-type Jensen or something based around that. But in any case, really beautiful, beautiful tone out of that thing. I said, but my brother, it is 15 watts. As you know, the Laney has a 1 and a 15. It's a reissue. Yeah, I got you on that. But still, if they're modeling off that 68 reverb tank, that's something. If they're trying to get it, no for no. Because that's just a sound. That and the 65, I believe, are the ones that people really like. But yeah, I said, my Laney has a 1 watt. You can go in 1 watt or you can go in 15. I said that 15 watt input, it's got cobwebs on it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have your man clean it out because I just don't use it. In an apartment like this, it's great for me to sit there and, crank it up, like I said, and adjust the volume using my volume on my guitar. But at 1 watt, it can cook, it can sizzle, it can make the windows rattle. At 15 watts, when I really turned up that Fender Deluxe and started playing it, I was like, I was really happy to be able to use it to demo this pedal, because I think this pedal with that Fender Deluxe, that's like the way to go. That's really the kind of demo that you want to do to really capture the sound of that pedal, where you can hear when it kicks in, it's got a growl to it. Now that I've done that, I can reiterate that it's a fantastic pedal and it's staying on my board here. But yeah, Fern laughed and he said, no, I keep it here and I can't use it in my apartment either. He says, I use it here down at the shop. If a customer wants to come in and test out some pickups or something that I put in for them, I've got it here for them to use. I said, I can dig that. In the apartment, no way. Which is, I guess, Ben, is why you were asking about attenuators. Now I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together there. Now I see your earlier inquiries about stuff like this power soak here. Yeah, man, that's the only way that I would rock that Fender in my apartment, is if I was using this power soak or that Cab 8 that I have. That would be the only way. On vacation at the beach, Not sure how long. Anthony, brother, enjoy the beach. That actually cracked me up. I bought the Tuno Cafe yesterday. Used. Oh yeah, yeah. That's the way to go, Ben. I would hit up the used market on those. I hope you got a good deal on it. What do you think about it? Do you have you got a chance? Well, you're still waiting on your amp. I see. Yeah, that's great, Anthony, man. Just enjoy. I'm glad you tuned in, man. I appreciate it. I'm actually slightly jealous. Although it's been warm here in Europe. Mickey, good evening. You guys know it's been warm here in Europe for the last couple of days. I actually have a roof garden, as you guys know, and I grew watermelon this year, little Japanese mini melons that the seeds I got in Japan, and I had one of them today. Oh man, it's just like biting into sunshine. It was so juicy and delicious. The stuff you get in the store, as opposed to the taste that stuff you grow organically in soil, man, it's night and day. It actually kind of took me back to my childhood. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so Fern laughed and he said, "Yeah, yeah, I can't use it that way." But again, I was jazzed that I was able to film, and you guys will see it this week. The demo of the Series 7's pedal here through that amp, and oh god, it was awesome. It really cooks. It's got a growl to it. It's got a real growl to it. In my when I get the overdrive in, I do like a light overdrive, but I like it to have a growl, a sand. I can't describe it any other way. A very sandpapery kind of texture to it, and this Series 7 pedal does it. I immediately from the first chord I hit, I was like, okay, all right, I see why the fuss was on these things. I don't know if it's 4 years worth of fuss, but I'm glad I got one. Dean Trouble is the thing I want with the first subject topic tonight. Dean Trouble. Well, Dean. I keep talking about that because I like Dean guitars. I really dig that headstock, that reverse V headstock design on their Flying V. I think that the symmetry of that guitar is just awesome. And I'm actually finding myself to be sort of a Flying V. I never really looked at them before. Again, it was Joe Bonamassa and his Amos that really got me looking into those again. As you guys can see, Joe, I kind of follow him. I really think as a historian, he's a real national treasure, actually, in that regard. Putting his music aside, whether you like his music or not, just in terms of his knowledge and his experience with vintage instruments, it's just phenomenal. But yeah, I started to get into Flying V's a little bit, and so I like Dean. I looked at Dean's Flying V, and I thought, oh, that's pretty sweet, And then when I heard that they lost the court case, I was a little sad because that was on my not on my serious get list, but if I run across one, at least pick it up and give it a try. But those guys, we've talked about them in past live streams here. Those guys can't seem to stay out of trouble, man. I mean, this Evan Rubinson guy, I kind of laid into him a little bit last time, saying that it was his fiduciary duty as an officer of the company to act right, so that everybody could retain their jobs and position. But he couldn't seem to hang on to that. He got fired. But apparently, not before he got he got let go. He did an interview right after the Gibson decision was handed down, and I remind you, in that decision, it was found that they were copyright infringement upon the Flying V and another model that they were putting out design. That Gibson said, "Hey, that's our design. You're infringing on those two, and you can't make them anymore." And the court sided with Gibson. Now, This Evan Rubinson guy, after that, he says, "Oh, no, don't worry about it. You know, these things, we're going to go negotiate. We're going to go back in and we're going to decide this. We're not stopping anything here. We're not stopping production." And the court order, part of it was you have to stop making these as of this date. That date came and he blew right past it. If you went on his website and checked, sure enough, there were the Flying V and this other model that weren't supposed to be there anymore up for sale. And of course, the lawyers over at Gibson, they were, marking this down every day. They had some poor interns in there having to click. Well, maybe the person liked guitars, he or she, or maybe it got him started. That might be another side story. Uh, but yeah, I had to sit there and look at this website every day, and sure enough, this stuff wasn't coming down. And Evans out there giving interviews shortly before he got 86th and saying, yeah, we're not, no, forget those guys, forget about it. And that didn't go over too well with Gibson's lawyers. They didn't like it at all. So they filed an injunction and said, hey, these guys are in contempt of court. So they need to cease and desist this immediately. And even then, it took a few days for that to come off the mic. How's that lovely Joyo amp you have there? They came out with a new T1 this week. Oh, did they, Ben? Well, if it's up here, if you see it up here, it's a keeper. I only keep the stuff that makes the cut, as you know about me. That thing is a monster. This is version 1. They came out with a version 2, as they always do, and from what I'm hearing, it's just not quite the same as this version 1. This version 1, I actually played around with the tubes. With these, we talked about that in another show where I talked about, well, is it enough power? Is 9 volts enough, or 18 volts, whatever it runs at, enough to really make any difference with the current running through the tube to influence the tone? And in some of these solid state and tube combinations, yes, there is. Ones like this one right here, which is the one that we used as the demo model for that show, the Vintage Tube Monster. It does as well, but it doesn't. I never used so many Dean guitars here in the UK. I own a Dean acoustic that's very nice a few years back. Yeah, Mickey. I'll get back to Dean. But just to make the point about the difference between something like this and something like the Joyo there, they're both worth taking a look into. I actually recorded a song using that Vintage Tube Monster, but I swapped the tubes. Both of them have 60s vintage tubes in them, and it made a difference. I played around with different tubes, swapping them out, playing them and seeing how it worked out. So yeah, these are great. Version 2, I don't know. In the Twee one, I'll take a look into that. But yeah, Dean Guitar, getting back to Dean, so those guys, I can have 5, 6 different ones on, 5, 6 different ones on Amazon. Yeah, take a look. I'm gonna look too. Dean guitars, they just can't seem to get out of trouble, and I'm starting to worry because honestly, they have other models, they have other designs, but to be honest, it were these now ruled by a court Gibson knockoffs that were their bread and butter guitars. They were the ones that, let's just be honest, those were the models that I saw from growing up as a kid. That's how long, that's been around, since the old man, a teenager. And to see how it's just really fallen apart to the point where I'm concerned. Like I've said before, we're going into a period of economic distress. And, a company like that has a name like that, has the potential of losing, if they can't hang on to it in the family, because it's a family business, somebody will buy it. It won't go away. If you're thinking I'm saying the Dean guitars will disappear, you just don't understand, the power of branding. They still have a name to them. And if they can't hang on to it, it's going to get sold. is to the usual suspects. And if that happens, you know, it'll be funny. It'll be like the CBS and the pre CBS Fender guitars. It'll be another situation like that with Dean guitars. So that's something you can, if you're a collector, or if you're thinking about buying a Dean, that's something you might think about if you read in the headlines it's getting sold, or if there's even a whiff of that. You want to do it before it makes the headlines, because when it hits the headlines, it's going to be too late to buy them. But if you're thinking about getting a Dean seriously, that's a little tidbit I can throw out there, at least with swimming around in my head. But really serious problems there. And this guy shooting his mouth on in a written interview after a court order like that. Whoo, that's, now he's no longer CEO, but he still said it when he was in the capacity of that. So there again is a fiduciary liability there, and there's a legal standing that he had at the time. So I never thought, well, I guess I should have. When we saw that Mark Agnassi video where he basically got in there and said, we're coming at you, we're coming after you. I was like, whoa, just like everybody else. Everybody else said, this is really serious here. These guys are going hardball, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But we can see now that they were quite serious about it. And I don't think that if they're found in contempt in that manner, that Gibson is going to let them go on that. They might make an example of them. Say, well, see, if you guys don't give this up, like the courts say, this is what's going to happen to you. They could do that. It wouldn't surprise me. They won't do it to everybody, but if you just do it to, whoever's dumb enough to try you, then everybody else will get the message, because they are going to continue going out after people. I wonder what's going to happen with Harley Benton. They've changed their designs a bit, but still there's enough there. I mean, they're not one-to-one copies, but there's still something there. I really wonder if Gibson would do that. Probably not, because there's so many Gibsons that are sold through Tonmon that they got a relationship. There's money there, changing hands between the two of them already. So I don't think they're going to rock the boat on Harley Benton guitars in terms of their design infringements. They could, but like I said, just speculate, just off the top of my head. There's money being exchanged there, so probably not. They'll probably let that slide. But in the case of Dean and the other manufacturers that they do go up against, you can guarantee they're going to go full throttle now that they've won some. They lost some, they've lost some, but they've won some. So there's that. But that just gets back into all of these guys who run the few family-owned businesses that are left out there, because they're slowly getting gobbled up. It really does behoove them to, in the case of this Evan guy, to get off his high horse a little bit. He grew up, with a silver spoon in his mouth. That's just the reality of it. And when you got a cat, I grew up in a neighborhood full of guys with silver spoons in their mouth. And they all had one common trait. They just had a disregard for thinking beyond oneself. Let's put it that way. And and so you recognize that, you see that, even reading the headlines, and if you read enough things, which I have, about this guy, you kind of recognize it, especially knowing his background. But to put again those workers again. All I think about is those workers. I think about the average line guys. That's kind of always where my thought first goes. I you know, the money guys, they're going to do what they're going to do, but the guys who are actually doing the work, you know, going into recession where that kind of, it's not exactly a market where there's a lot of jobs. As a matter of fact, as we've discussed on this channel, they're cutting jobs. So it's, you know, even though they have experience, the market is tight right now because of, you know, because of reasons that we've covered, and I'm sure you're aware of as well. And I just think about those cats. If you know they keep on screwing around over there at Dean, and like this, you know, you really wonder where that's going to end up for some of those people. So I feel for them, and that's why I bring these subjects up to you, talk about. You know, we can look at the guitars. Oh, this is a great design, but there was a person who, you know, bolted and glued and scraped and binded and wound, you know, to make that happen. And, you know, I fear, you know, this is a separate subject I guess I could get into. I guess this kind of leads into my third subject. You know, pedals that I miss. Most guitar sales are definitely luxury purchases, so even more jobs may be risk. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mickey. You know, when you have these economic headwinds taking place, as we do, you know, again, everybody's going to start looking around the room, and they're going to really okay. For example, in China, you know, I lived in Asia for a long time, uh, over 2 decades. So I got to know the peoples of that region very well. And in China, you know, a lot of Hong Kong Chinese friends I had, and then people I knew through them, they were into luxury bags. They were buying Louis Vuitton bags. They were buying Prada, Coach bags, things of that nature. They were really into it. They because there were, you know, in China, other than real estate and gold, I guess, to a certain amount. I don't know if there's limits on how much you can buy or hold. There's not a lot of places that you can put your money, and they were making money at that time. The market was hot, and a lot of these women, wives, some of my friends, they were buying these bags, and even to the point where they were buying them from dealers who would get them directly from the factories that were producing them, these special bags. I mean, if you get your head around that, it's a bag made in China in a Chinese factory. That anyway, but they were crazy about these things. Now the bubble has burst in luxury watches as well. You know, Patek Philippe's, Rolexes, things of that ilk. The bubble has burst, and a lot of these secondhand shops are starting to buy at a steep discount all of these bags, all of this stuff, all of these luxury watches, all this stuff that was not, you know, it was a luxury good. It was a luxury item. Same thing with guitars. Same thing, you know. We all have that guitar that we know is our desert island guitar. We know that, yeah, this one pretty much will, you know, if I gotta run, I'm gonna put in my gig bag, throw it over my shoulder, and whatever else, and start walking with that first. So we all have that one, but again, it's when you start getting into having more, that you might start finding yourself looking around, and in some cases to trade up, to say, okay, I'm going to take these two or three or four or five, I'm going to sell them all at once so that I can get this next step up, which is something that I don't talk about a lot on this channel, but that's an excellent idea. That's another way of going about it is bundling. I did that with some of my pedals in order to get my F1 here. I traded three or four of them in for it, and it worked out great. But yeah, the economic headwinds are going to be that a lot of people are going to start letting things go. They're going to look around and say, okay, we can shed this. Just like in China with the luxury goods, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So yeah, you want to be aware of that, and just understand that it's going to be a flood of goods coming in, and you can handle it a lot of different ways. We've talked about that. Let's not cover that now. Okay, going into my third subject here, pedals I miss. Actually, the title of tonight's program is pedals that I'm sorry that I let go of. And yeah, I was talking about the workers there at Dean and other places as well, and and not just here but in China as well. I mean, there are cats who've been working 20 years on the Epiphone line. Again, that's one of the reasons why Epiphones every year seem to get better and better. You go back to the guitar forums and say in 2013 you can start seeing people say, hey, or even earlier than that, 2009, Epiphones are getting better because these guys had 10 years. When they got to the 20-year point in 2019, 2020, you really start to see where all that experience and all that was coming together, especially with the 59 kit, the Lazarus, Black Beauties, and all, and some of the stuff we've been seeing. That years of experience is showing. And because of lockdowns in China, those guys aren't working, and you really worry with, are they going to be able to come back? Because that's invested time and skill. So, that's with pedal winders, I'm saying pedal manufacturers, and winders of pickups and things like that. Oh, another digression. Not this, I actually shot two shows this week because I was a little bit ahead. I had a little bit of time. The second show that I shot for this week, after the demo of this 7 series, is I took Roswell pickup apart. I took the solder joints and cracked those open, and I took that bad boy apart. I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, talking about winders and pickups, we're going to crack open a Roswell, and you guys are going to see. Well, I will say this much: you are going to see why it's a cheap pickup. Once you take a look under the hood of anything, you can see why, and we'll get into that. But yeah, the skill that the Epiphone winders there, the experience that they have, far outshines of more less experienced guys at Roswell. Roswell's been doing don't get me wrong, but they haven't been doing it as long as Epiphone winders in China. So you have that loss of skilled labor. And when I talk about pickups that I'm sorry that I sold, or the one that I missed the most, which I'll talk about here in a minute, I begin to also consider about how we may not have that stuff going here in the future. It's a strong possibility. I keep an eye on what's going on in China a lot. When I focus my eye as Siron onto something, I really focus in on it because I want to know what's going on there, because that's a strong economic indicator, and it's a shipping hub. Well, so, and that's something that interests me in terms of some of my business dealings. So, I keep an eye on that, and I am alarmed. I am extremely alarmed of what those lockdowns are doing in terms of the manufacturing districts. And some of these places I've been to, the electric town there in where is that? It's got to be Shanghai. Is like a ghost town. It's dead. And this place was like the Akihabara, which is a district in Tokyo, which all the new electronics and everything you can find are there. The new electronic shops, gizmos, gears, just stuff that'll blow your mind. And same thing. This place is just gone. And that the same thing is happening at the Epiphone factory. Those guys aren't working. I don't, or they're working on a skeleton crew at best, because the lockdown is occurring in their region. That's been ongoing for a few weeks now, off and on for the last year, a couple of times. So, I just started thinking about those things, and the pedal that I miss the most is the Mr. Moto. I demoed that when I was living in Singapore on this channel. The Mr. Moto is a reverb and a what do you call that? Tremolo pedal. And as I said to you, one of the weaknesses here, the only weakness in my opinion at this point on my pedal board here, is the reverb department. I find these cheap reverbs like the Tiny Spring here by Tone City, the Mooer Spring Verb that I'm currently using in there, I find them lacking. And the more and more, and when I first moved here and I was setting up my reverb shop and I was putting stuff up for sale to get that going because I had to get that going. I needed the income at the time, and I was putting stuff up for sale. And I put that Mr. Moto up because at the time I wasn't putting together a pedal board. I was, I said any recording that I have to do, I'll just use the Laney if I even get to that. Because when I first moved, it was a very hectic time. And that went up, and that was one of the first ones to go. I bought that pedal in Singapore, and at the shop in Singapore, I buy the Laney and most of my pedals stuff that I bought there. And now that I reflect upon it, I shouldn't have let that one go. I can replace it. They are available. The Mr. Moto Tremolo Reverb, Spring Reverb. They're available online. I can order it, but I put myself in a position now where I have to rebuy something that I already had, and I hate that. I know that sounds weird, guys, but I hate having to go back and get it, especially now they cost more than when I bought it. And the one that I bought, it was new in the box, but they were using it, and the guy gave me a slight discount on it. And I'm not going to get it at that price again. So not only would I have to replace it, I'll have to pay more to get it, and that always burns me. That always, selling, a guitar at a loss or a piece of gear at a loss. I've done that, and I can swallow that one. Especially if I used it or, if I enjoyed it or if I demoed it and, I made a video or something like that. Okay, great. I'll make a little bit on the the other side on this one. But to have to get something back again that I already had, that burns me. And that's something that I don't like. But this pedal, I began to realize, was one of the best spring reverb pedals out there on the market that I've heard. I've been going through them in shops, or I'll buy it online and demo it here. You guys can hear it too. But that's the one recently that I really, it hasn't got to the point where I'm dreaming about it. I'm kidding. But it is something that's been on my mind, oh gosh, and I'm still looking for a reverb pedal, and I keep saying to myself, dude, you found one that you liked, that you found to be excellent. As a matter of fact, in comparison with these other ones, you can really hear the tonal difference. It's a better quality circuit on that one build. Why are you trying all of these other pedals? Why are you out here buying, all this stuff? These other ones. The one you found one that you liked, but it just burns me that I already had it and I sold it. And pedals. I'm sure you guys have pedals out there or pieces of gear. I don't want to talk about guitars because everybody says that one. Oh, the guitar I let go. We all had guitars, we let go. We all have. If you're a guitar player and you remember that first one you had as a kid, a teenager, whatever. Of course, 9 times out of 10, that one's the first one to go. It's very rare that you hold on to this stuff because it's not until later in life that you get nostalgic about it. You start feeling the nostalgia of, oh, I remember my first guitar, why didn't I hold on to that? And maybe you'll go out and get a reissue of it, or maybe you'll go out and find some guys will go out and find, the same make, model, and year. But you and I know that it's not the same. It's not the same. It's like old girlfriends, man. It's just not the same. Even if you run into them, I mean, you can go out with a whole lot of other, but it's just not the same. It's not as that first love, that first crush. It's not the same feeling. So yeah, dig that. I really miss that Mr. Moto pedal, and I'm thinking to myself that I might have to replace that. Now I'm trying to do my board so that it's not a crowded board. I don't like, as you can see, I guess you can see here with my shoulder, I don't like everything all pancaked together. I like a little space. I like a little order there. Mr. Moto is a full-size pedal, so it's about the size of this. So Mr. Moto is about the size of this pedal right here. And that's a little bit bigger. I was trying to find a mini reverb pedal out there. If you guys can think of one, you can shout out here in the comments or down in the comment section later on. If you can think of one, I've gone through most of the mini pedals, reverb pedals, and none of them really work for me. I don't know. Size doesn't matter because that EP Boost is small and that thing is a killer, but I just haven't found one, a mini pedal. So if you can think of one, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, again, tying all this together with what I'm saying here is that even with the Mr. Moto, because I do believe that that's Chinese made, it's manufactured in China, those may disappear, dry up. Not likely, there's a lot of them out there. But I guess the sentiment is that I'm trying to get across is that who was putting those together at the time that I bought mine it's highly likely that they haven't been putting those together to the same capacity that they were prior, to the current date. I'm always running that through my mind about gear. Again, that's why I said to you, if you're good, you're good. Okay, don't worry about buying stuff. But if there are things that you do miss and that you feel that you want to replace, this really may be a good moment to do that. You might want to reach out and say, okay, maybe this is time. In my case, I'm saying to myself, okay, maybe this is time for me to invest in a Mr. Moto. Let me move this over a little bit. There we go. I want to get that speaker in for the next thing. Yeah. So things I miss. I missed that one. Again, it burns me that I'm going to have to buy it again at retail, and they've gone up in price. But at the end of the day, I know that one had a quality that I liked. Hey, thank you for joining. Good to see you. Yeah, so I've been thinking about that a lot, and I might just do that here. Okay, so 43 minutes in. All right, guys. I'm going to chase a lot of you away, probably. But I want to talk about some technical stuff here tonight. I want to talk about a recording. I want to talk about microphones as well. As you know, I'm a strong proponent here in my studio to try to find the best bang for the buck, your best, bet in terms of capturing a good quality sound to tape without blowing your budget. Of course, this is coming from a guy who has a lot of vintage gear. There's some areas that you really want to spend your money. But I believe in modern times, certainly since and I'm saying relatively modern times, the advent of the SM57 goes back 40 years, I believe. But since the advent of mics like the SM57 and some of the cheaper priced microphones, we've been able to really get stuff to tape without breaking the bank on our microphones. Now, I want to talk about two mics tonight and play a recording that I did using them that I swear by. I've had, I've got my main vocal mic behind me here. That they don't, the manufacturer's not even in business. I've had it since 92, 93. But for a lot of the times that I was working in project studios in LA, a lot of the times that I was working in Japan, I really fell in love with these two mics, the Behringer C1 and the B1. Really, and seriously, we're talking about 150, maybe depending if you're in Australia, maybe $200 US tops that you would spend for these two microphones. And if you have these two microphones, you can pretty much will do all the work that you need to do in a studio. They can be used as overheads, certainly for vocal mics. They can be used as room mics for amps. You'll have an SM57 here, and you'll have one of the two of these as your room mic to capture the room tone. There's a lot of ways that you can use these, and just other than just the classical of instrument and vocal. But really, guys, I can't sing the praises of these enough. You can get into the far more expensive models, of course. $1,000 and up, $3,000 if you want to get into something like the AKG mics. They are better. I've used them. I've used pro mics in Sony studios and Motown studios, working. Babyface's studio there in LA when I was setting up, and as a second engineer, I'm familiar with really high quality mics. And yes, there is a difference. However, it's not enough. Again, it's just like Epiphones, Les Pauls, and Gibson Les Pauls. Yeah, there's a difference there in that build, and there's a little something extra there. But really, it's not enough where you'd be looked at crazy for just buying these instead. Because you can really capture a beautiful tone with these. Now, of course, I have SM57s, 58s. I have, a large collection. I never really talk about my mic collection here. I've got almost a dozen microphones here in the studio that I've collected over time. But time and time again, I go back to these Behringer microphones. And for you guys who are just starting out and or you've been in for a while, and you're looking at your budgets and you're saying to yourself, hey, what's out there that I can get that will get me a professional quality recording and won't break the bank? Really, these are ridiculous. The price, what you're getting here, of course, you have to have phantom power, but almost every, my Euphoria back here interface, it has phantom power. Every interface these days, if you're recording into just about anything, has phantom power. So that's not an issue. If you got that covered, you're good to go. If you have, where it really comes down to is the quality of your preamp going in, and that's a separate thing. You want to, of course, that's where you can make up that little bit of difference too with these, is having a high quality preamp going into your recorder. So, but that's a separate issue. But just to get it in, even with your standard interface, you really can't go wrong when it comes to these mics. Now, I want to back that up. I said, well, I've been playing snippets from tracks. Actually, I've been playing whole tracks from my album just to give you guys a flavor for what the album is like. I talked about how country music is in my background because of my mother. Growing up in the 70s in LA, radio at that time wasn't segregated as it is now, in my opinion. FM radio station would play Stevie Wonder, then it would play Steely Dan, then it would play, the Beatles. It would go all over. It would play, John Denver. It was all over the place. And the records at home that my mother listened to, because she's from West Virginia, she listened to a lot of country music. So I have that in my musical background, in my DNA. And on every album that I do try to include a track that demonstrates that DNA for two reasons. The root of rock music is its DNA is in blues music. We all know this, and so folk music also has its DNA as well in that genre. So just to keep that flow going and pay homage to that, I always try to write a track that goes, in that direction. Include that in my album. And the next one that I'm going to play for you tonight really is in that country mode. This is an acoustic recording I did using these two microphones. I used the C1 as my vocal microphone, and I'm sorry, the B1 as my vocal microphone, and the C1 to record my acoustic guitar. I had this set up like this. I had my C1 here in front of me, and of course my Yamaha acoustic guitar. Oh, it's over here. My Yamaha acoustic guitar in my lap, and went to perform this song that I wrote for the album. The recording you're also going to hear my mandolin in it. So I recorded that also with the C1 as well. I find that for recording mandolin, because the mandolin is a very harsh instrument, it can get really grainy. But I used the C1 on it, and it came out beautifully for the mandolin solo on the song. So let me play the song for you. It's called Passing Time. You can hear the quality of these microphones. You can hear a song that I wrote, an acoustic song that I wrote, in the country tradition, I guess. So let's listen to that. Guess I've traveled a different road. With every step I know, I should worry for my soul. And I guess I've had my share of lovers. And how I have discovered you can't live beneath the covers. Well, ooh, well, my. We're all just passing time. And in the end, babe. Oops, sorry guys. Not sure what happened there. Sorry. Oh, something's going on with my playback. Well, anyway, that's fine enough. You guys get the idea. I'm sorry, for some reason I don't feel like fiddling with it. It doesn't want to play back. But at least we got to hear that part. You get to hear the quality of these microphones, the vocal quality, as well as the quality of this for recording the guitar. It's a really beautiful tone. It wants to, for some reason, it wants to stop there. Let's play a little bit more of that. So it really. You can't live beneath the covers. The beauty I like of this recording is the room that I did it in as well. I recorded this in my studio in Singapore. Oh, thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. I don't know why it stopped playing back here, but I don't feel like fiddling with it. But at least it played enough so you guys can get an idea of it. I love the tone of that studio in Singapore. That room, because it had really high ceilings to it, but there was also an overhang. There was a second floor to it that I could also record up there as well. But when you got underneath it, it was a great tone, when you got right underneath it where I had my drums at. and that's where I recorded this. I did two takes. I did two takes of this one, and sometimes if I like a little bit of this one, I'll try to see if I can put the two of them together. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. When you're recording a live, thing like this, it's kind of hard to do those kind of splices. But I did two takes of this just to see how I felt about it, which one would be the best, and I went with this one. So yeah, I mixed it here. But just to give you guys an example of how, these microphones, they're inexpensive ones. And my mindset in recording this track really was to replicate. I had in mind what they would do back. Again, I always think, what did they do back in the day, and how can I apply the principles of that to modern day? And I was thinking about, of course, Taylor, and how would he have done it back in the day, back in Apple Studio when he was working on albums, and how would that sound, and things of that nature. And so uh, it's tough to sit there and play and record like that because it has to, I have my headphones on, I've got a click going, so I can keep tempo. I know the song because I wrote it, so lyrics aren't a problem. Although sometimes I'll write something out. What did I write? I'll forget. I have a little brain fart. But in the case of this one, it came out very nice. And again, like I said, I did not use expensive microphones to capture that vocal and guitar, acoustic guitar sound to tape. It was, it was pretty much $150 worth of microphones to do that. So you don't have to break the bank. Again, it's your preamps. I have a really good preamp. Um, Everything runs through. Uh, that's the key in that chain. But you don't want to go too cheap with your microphones. But I can vouch for these. You heard it yourself. Of course, this is from these speakers to the speakers of this recorder here in front of me. But still, you could hear the quality of it. Here in the room, it sounds rich. It sounds really nice. So yeah, you don't have to break the bank when it comes to recording microphones. Um, Again, like I said, if you've got yourself a SM57, the Behringer B1 and C1, you're okay, and that's an investment of about 300, 325 tops, and you are set in terms of anything you want to do. Like I said, most of my drums, I put a SM57 on the snare, between the snare and the hi-hat, the close hat to capture that sound. Everything else were these two, and the kick mic. So yeah, one, two, three, four mics I would use total to record my drum kit. And these played a heavy role every time. And you've heard some of my tracks here. Well, I'll play one. Let's go back to one that I already played you. Uh, if it's working, let's see if it'll work. This is also these microphones for these drums. Yeah, I played you guys that track. But that's four microphones when I recorded those drums. And the two overheads are the C1 and the B1. These are fantastic mics. You want to, invest in them. Again, like I said, with the four that I used there, we're talking about, $400 worth of mics to capture that sound there, and which I think is good. It's as a matter of fact, it's fantastic. Once I put a little polish on it. But yeah, so you don't need to break the bank. as I've demonstrated tonight, when it comes to your microphones. You can capture beautiful vocals and acoustic sounds with inexpensive microphones. Again, like I said, the key in that link is your preamp. Make sure that you're going through the best quality preamp that you. That's where you want to spend your money in your signal chain in that regard. You can get by again, like I said, with these Behringer mics and a couple of SM57, 58. Yeah, that was the microphone. The 58. I use that for the kick. So yeah, you can get away with that for $300-400. But you'll want to spend 500, 600, 700, 500 or 600 if you can on a good quality preamp. Yeah, that is the gist of that. I have no idea why that stopped in the middle. I'm having, this software is great. This is Studio One. This is the software that I use to do everything. It's fantastic. You can sync video up to this and do rudimentary video syncing. It's not necessary, but it was something that helped me when the client would send me a video with an idea for the music they wanted, and having this up here on the screen at the same time, I had a drum thing going. I could figure out, okay, this is the tempo, this is the rhythm of it, so that I could give them back something that approximated what they wanted within the time that they needed. So great software. I don't know if you can do that on some of the other softwares out there, but I do love it for that. Yeah, but sometimes it gets quirky, man, and you just saw it. For some reason, it does not want to play that track. And it'll do that sometimes. If I turn it off and turn it back on, log back in again, it'll work fine, but it'll get quirky sometimes. It doesn't help that my Mac is getting a little long in the tooth as well. That might be something that it may have something to do with it. But I'm happy. She's been a trooper. I appreciate this Mac for hanging in there and getting this album done, at least. All right, guys. We have reached the end of tonight's live stream. We've done a full hour. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys about these subjects and playing you little snippets of my album and talking about recording, talking about Dean guitars, talking about that Mr. Moto pedal, that doggone it, I'm going to probably have to end up getting. Don't want to do it. It's just like, God, you guys, I'm weird, guys. I'm really weird. I'm not cheap. I'm not. You guys can see I'm not cheap. I'm not saying that, but some things I just to buy something back that I already had, it makes me say, well, what were you thinking? What were you thinking there? Why did you keep this one but you didn't keep this one? It's like because this one is sitting here gathering dust. Why you start knocking at yourself like, what were you thinking? But yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. So coming up again this week, this week's show, as I told you, we will do a demonstration of the Electric Magic Series 7 pedal, going through a guest combi amp. Our guest amp this week is a 2002 Fender Deluxe. And we're going to demo that. Wow. Again, guys, what a tone. What a tone. It works for me. I like a growl, and you'll hear it too. I'm glad it was one of those happy circumstances where the pedal came in just at the time that I had that Fender Deluxe for a day, and their paths met, and I was really able to hear how that pedal really is. Because again, I think for pedals, if you're a pedal head and the way you're gonna go, man, you're going to want to get yourself a Fender Deluxe. I mean, the clean tones out of that thing, and you can put any amp in a box in front of that thing to get the immolation pretty accurately. So it was a good thing to have. Again, 15 watts. I can't have it without an attenuator. It wouldn't work for me here. But running through the cab 8 bin like you were talking about, running through that cap 8, yeah, man, that's the way to go. Uh, you know, that's beautiful. If I could record, if I had an amp here, if I decided to go with a pedal board because it's modular, I can swap things out. I can go that path with an amp or an amp head. You're pretty much well stuck to whatever that tone is. Yes, you're giving up the solid state for tube. Yeah, I understand that, but if you know that sound, you can record it in a way where the average listener is not gonna know. It's really it's that extra 5% with tube amps over solid state, in my opinion. I do prefer two amps. That's why I have one, two. Uh, but yeah, solid state is not bad. You know, they've been making solid state amps since the '60s, so that's how far back that goes. But anyway, it was a blessing to have the two of those converge at the same time, and to be able to do a demo of that. So that will be this week's show. That will feature that. And then next week, after the live stream, I will put up me tearing apart that Roswell pickup. Boy, you guys, you gotta stay tuned for that one, where we look at the inside of that Roswell pickup. It is something. It's something. I can see why it sounded the way that it sounded. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I really had a great time talking to you this evening. Wherever you are this week, wherever you find yourself, just find yourself in a good place. Take care of yourself. And yeah, we'll be back here next Sunday for sure, God willing. And you guys take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ben. Take care. You guys take care, everybody.